Enter dream reality, dream interpretation, dream analysis, and the dream state. This is Journal to the Dreamscapes. I'm your host, Joseph Vivaldi, and tonight on the podcast we have
Twilight Cricket here.
And on this show, we normally do a dream of myself and a dream of somebody famous. And we have a special treat being election day. And that dream will be the dream of Abraham Lincoln. And a sad dream, but a prophetic dream.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think you were saying he has a dream foreshadowing his own death.
His own demise, yes.
Amazing. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
But first, as Joseph Vivaldi named, I'm going to discuss the dream that I've had. And then we're going to tie everything in. Here we go. On August 3rd, 2009, I had a dream. And this was when I recorded it, was 12:09 p.m. I dreamed of a guy who went to jail with his woman. I dreamed of a guy who went to jail. His woman was promiscuous. He was 2 and in jail. And he saw something his dad made. And it gave him reassurance. If he was to spend the rest of his days there, it was a metal box with a rope going to the middle. And the shape of the box with the rope was like a fist.
Huh. That's very cool. So
interesting dream.
Yes, it certainly seems to be. So one of the features I noticed, we're reading here on Journal to the Dreamscapes, we read from various manuals of dream interpretation. The one that I'm reading from was written by Gustavus Hinman Miller. It's 10,000 Dreams, or What's in a Dream. And under the entry for jail, okay, which was a feature of Joe's dream, to see others in jail, you will be urged to grant privileges to persons, bless you, whom you believe to be unworthy. To see Negroes in jail denotes worries and loss through negligence of underlings. This is an old book, people, so understand that. For a young woman to dream that her lover is in jail, she will be disappointed in his character as he will prove a deceiver. So those are all. What was the detail, like when you go back on that dream, Joe? What was the detail of the dream? Did you see features within the prison also? Did you see guards?
All I remember was the metal box with the rope and the fist.
Well, that's the end, but you don't remember the prison at all then, right?
I don't remember the prison at all.
All right. So that's that entry. In the same book, under the entry for harlot, it says, to dream of being in the company of a harlot denotes ill-chosen pleasures and trouble in your social circles, and business will suffer depression. If you marry one, life will be threatened by an enemy.
In A Pocket Guide to Dreams by Philip Caucus and Douglas Caucus, he writes about the nature of promiscuity.
Promiscuity.
I should Over recent decades, our society has become more sexually liberated, yet many sleepers still feel ashamed of erotic dreams. Such dreams are common and should not be considered perverse. Sometimes they are a portrayal of our darkest secrets, but more often they reveal how we view ourselves and those around us than they do our sexual desires.
Another entry there.
Yes. Another entry indeed.
Under my same book by Gustavus Hinman Miller, we have the entry for gift, which would represent the box, the fish-shaped box. To dream that you receive gifts from anyone denotes that you will not be behind in your payments and be unusually fortunate in speculations or love matters. To send a gift signifies displeasure will be shown you and ill luck will surround your efforts. For a young woman, a dream that her lover sends her rich and beautiful gifts denotes that she will make a wealthy and congenial marriage. So there's another one. Another entry for ropes. Ropes in dreams signify perplexities and complications in affairs and uncertain lovemaking. If you climb one, you will overcome enemies who are working to injure you. To descend a rope brings disappointment to your most sanguine moments. If you are tied with them, you are likely to yield to love contrary to your judgment. To break them signifies your ability to overcome enmity and competition. To tie ropes or horses denotes that you will have power to control others as you may wish. To walk a rope signifies that you will engage in some hazardous speculation, etc., etc. It's very, very interesting. Another entry from the Miller book.
I read in this book called Symbols, Signs, and Dream Interpretations by Mark O'Connell, Roger and Richard Craze that metal represents alchemistic.
That stands to reason based on what I know of hermetic and alchemical traditions. Yeah. Their greatest tradition is turning lead into gold, the Philosopher's Stone, and all that, you know.
Yes.
Many, many speakers have expounded on that. Pretty interesting stuff.
I have one question to ask.
No, sure. Well, I have a couple myself.
And this is for both of us.
Yeah.
And that is, what does the fist mean in a dream? We were looking at our research and we couldn't exactly find what the meaning of the fist was, but if I was to say something to me in the dream, the fist represented exactly what it said in the dream. That was reassurance, power, and the like.
The iconography is very interesting because it's a box, which means it's not only a container, but it's a gift. Because you said it was a box.
Mm-hmm.
So its implication is hollow. It's something that it's giving. The alchemical trip that it's metal,
Yeah.
and a fist shape. Very, very powerful imagery. Interesting. Now we're throwing 3 different books at it, and it's hard to piece it together.
But I'm sure when the listeners are listening and they put the pieces together of the puzzle, everything will make sense.
Well, yeah. Now, how do you feel hearing this dream, and now transposing this dream on that time in your life? What does it tell you about what was going on with you?
I feel that, I feel I was coming out of a rough situation and I was just rebuilding again and it was tough. And this was how many years ago, but it didn't foreshadow what would happen years later.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about around the time you had the dream.
Around the time I had the dream, it seemed like I was rebuilding again.
Okay, so that's what you feel like when you hear those things.
Yeah, it seemed like I was reassured that I would overcome the situation.
So it does have a coherence because it tells you like you were going through something and it gave you the ability to stand strong.
Yeah.
Right on, right on. This is Journal to the Dreamscapes on the Joseph Vivaldi Network. I'm Twilight Cricket, an emissary from the Okeanos Network, a parallel brand to the Joseph Vivaldi brand. And it's always a pleasure doing Journal to the Dreamscapes. But I'm here to tell you about where I'm from, the Okeanos Network. The Okeanos Network, audiobooks, poetry, spoken word, paranormal investigations, and talk. The Okeanos Network, a creative baptism for every day. Check us out on Spreaker.com and go to Amazon Kindle to get the writings of Richard Andrew Oakes.
Hi, I'm Joseph Vivaldi, and I have a few things to plug. But I'm gonna plug one. The fact is, I have a book coming out on the Amazon Kindle on December 21st of 2018. It is called The Book of Seasons. A book on the Kindle that is about seasons from fall to fall. How we go through our cycles in time and how we go through the cycles in ourselves. It's a very good Kindle book in a book. Check it out.
Is that available yet for KDP?
I know it will be. It is available for pre-order, but it is not available until December 21st.
Excellent.
I am Joseph Vivaldi, and I'm going to bring on as our guest reporter of the Joseph Vivaldi Network. He has a show with Kurt. It's called Yesterday's News. We're going to bring on Joe Vexter for this special dream report. And considering it's election day today, this is an appropriate dream about election day. It's about Abraham Lincoln. So, Joe Vexter, take it away. I am Joe Vexter, a reporter, and I'm going to report on a dream from Abraham Lincoln, and it is a classic dream, and a sad dream nonetheless. And this is the dream, and I repeat, quote unquote, from the RogerJNorton.com. It was about Abraham Lincoln. And this is what it reports from the dream, quote unquote. About 10 days ago, I retired very late. I had been up waiting for important dispatches from the front. I could not have been long in bed when I fell into a slumber, for I was weary. I soon began to dream. There seemed to be a death-like stillness about me. Then I heard subdued sobs. A sobbing, but the mourners were invisible. I went from room to room. No living person was in sight. But the same mournfulness, sounds of distress met me as I passed along. I saw light in all of the rooms. Every object was familiar to me. But where were all the people who were grieving? As if their hearts would break. I was puzzled and alarmed. What could be the meaning of all this? Determined to find the cause of a state of things so mysterious and so shocking. I kept on until I arrived at the east room, which I entered. There I met with a sickening surprise. Before me was a caterpillar on which rested a corpse wrapped in funeral vestments. Around it were stationed soldiers who were acting as guards, and there was a throng of people gazing mournfully upon the corpse, whose face was covered, others weeping pitifully. Who is dead in the White House? I demanded of one of the soldiers. The president was his answer. He was killed by an assassin. Then came a loud burst of grief from the crowd, which woke me from my dream. I slept no more that night, and although it was a dream, I have been strangely annoyed by it ever since. 10 days later, the president of Abraham Lincoln was assassinated at Fort Stephen by Wilkes Booth, John Wilkes Booth.
So we just had that great read by Joe Vexter where he went over. Now that's really a dream that Abraham Lincoln had, and all the people back then who were writers, men and women of letters, they all wrote prolifically. They all kept journals and whatnot. Now, he wrote about that in one of his journals, and we know that.
It is documented.
Now, I mean, we would have to wonder how fearful he was of assassination. We would have to know how pressing on his consciousness that was. Obviously, significantly so, if he had a dream foreshadowing it. And such a dream.
In my opinion, excuse me.
Yes.
He was so connected to the afterlife that it revealed his own death afterwards.
That's possible. I've heard he was an exceptionally spiritual man. I have a copy of his journals floating around the Okino studios somewhere, but I haven't dipped too into them. It's back burner stuff, but it's amazing, you know. I wonder how many others had dreams as such, where they could see something like that coming.
See, in my honest opinion, he had. It's like someone just knows. It's like they know when their time is coming.
I've heard that, yes. I've heard that.
It's like he knew it.
Yeah.
It's like he had it revealed to him. Like, it's like scary as it was, scary as it is, he had his fate revealed to him. And I'll tell you, pardon my language, it scared the living bejesus hell out of him.
It seems as though he says that it made an impression, that it annoyed him. So it was a persistent source of irritation and stress, I would wager, on the shoulders of what was already a heavy-laden presidency. And such a war. It was popular for some, and for others it was like wow. And the potential of disaster that hovered over the entire thing, and the carnal loss.
Well, the Civil War was about the South and the North. You know that.
Yes, it's about so much more than that.
So much more.
Yes. First of all, it was for the purposes of abolitionism. But you must understand that the global interests that were involved, slaves can't come on ships. And ships are global. They're a global market. That's the thing you always have to remember.
But I gotta ask you one question.
Yeah.
And this could be like moving on to the territories of Spiritus Holographica, which can be revisited later.
Maybe we need to take notes for that out of this.
But who actually won the war when the president of one side winds up dead?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming it's more rhetorical, and that it's supposed to diagnose the situation as a point of value and loss and whatnot. I mean, what it did was it finally threw down hard slavery of bondage and such, and lash, which is barbaric and inhuman.
Yeah.
But it's a Babylonian thing, and there are many, many kinds of slavery that exist. So,
and it still exists today?
There are many places in the world where people are under tyranny. And tyranny is basically, you must have tyranny in order for slavery to exist.
Yeah.
So that is why one is liberated or emancipated or what have you, is to escape the tyrannical state.
Yeah. With the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, all we know is reality had changed in America at that time. Things would not be the same. And from what we know and what was read by Joe Baxter, reported from RogerJNorton.com, that dreams can foretell a future. He wants to tap into something spiritual, or something spiritual got to him and said, this is what's going to happen. And sometimes when we get dreams, we don't know how to react. And even if it's our own death, as in Abraham Lincoln, it would scare the living hell out of us. With that note, I think it a pause.
This is Twilight Cricket coming to you on the show Journal to the Dreamscapes on the Joseph Vivaldi Network. I'm from the Oakenuts Network. I've got a couple of podcast channels to tell you about. Oakwood's Apternity audiobooks by Richard Andrew Olkus and David Michael Lockwood Jr. The Fruits of Oakwood Publishing. By sometime in late November, we should have some stuff regarding that. On Quantum Posy, our poetry channel, recently uploaded was the spoken word album Machinations of the Cybernetic Phantom God. Check that out and the poetic writings of Richard Andrew Olkus. And we have Temporality's Shadow, which is a paranormal investigation podcast, where as the co-host, I read into the Spirit Radio a variety of scriptures, sacred texts, paranormal texts, and then we record the sweeps on the AM band and play the spiritual radio's wormhole, searching through the sweeps for vocal anomalies, that being strange voices and sounds. That's Temporality's Shadow on the Oakenuts Network. The Oakenuts Network, audiobooks, poetry, talk, paranormal investigations, a creative baptism for every day. Check us out on Spreaker.com and Amazon Kindle for the books.
Yeah, very good. At this time, things are looking up for the Joseph Vivaldi brand. We have a book on the Kindle coming out. It's called The Book Seasons, The Journey Through the Year's Cycle. We have an audio book coming out, which hopefully around November, late November, December. It is called A Soul Warrior's Journey. That's my novel. We also have other programming on the Joseph Vivaldi Network, which is looking up. We have shows such as Yesterday's News with Joe Baxter and Kurt. We have Totem Wolf and Bearheart. We have this show. We also have Ricky and Wolfman's show. And also, we have Spiritus Holographic. Very good shows on the network, and we have much more to come. And we just want to thank you, listeners, for tuning in. And with that note, we take it off.
Well, thanks for listening, folks. It's been a great episode. Go in harmony.
This is Dream Reality, Dream Interpretation, Dream Analysis, and the Dream State. This is Journal to the Dreamscapes. I'm your host, Joseph Vivaldi, and this is
Twilight Cricket here.
Have a good night.